Hey, sports fans, welcome to the Greg Medford Show. We're here at Blade Show 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia. I have got President CEO or CEO?
President CEO.
President and CEO of K-Bar Knives here, John Stitt. John, thanks for coming on the show with us.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
We met yesterday, of course. Me, my big mouth Marine, leans over the counter. I'm like, look at you, Dapper. Where'd you show up from Europe here? And then one of the guys is over, that's the CEO of K-Bar. I'm like, jeez, I'm such a big mouth. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How's the show going for you guys? Awesome?
Been wonderful. It's great to see this traffic and people out and about, and just nice to not be in our houses anymore.
Yeah, kind of back to America.
Yeah.
You guys got locked down pretty hard up in New York, huh?
We did. We were ground zero, well, at least New York City was, and we're quite a ways away from there, but New York, because we fall, New York goes as New York City goes. So so they locked us down real hard, real quick, and then you're of course limited about how many people you could have at work and that stuff. So,
just give me a little lay of the land. Does your family own are you guys shareholders or majority shareholders? How'd you get into the K-Bar world?
Sure. So my dad actually worked for, out of college, he worked for Alcoa Aluminum, and he worked for one of their plants in Chillicothe, Ohio. He got transferred to this little knife plant in New York called Alcas, which was a joint venture between Alcoa and Case. And so they moved to New York in 1975, and like a lot of the old, blue chip companies, when you worked for them, they transferred you often if you were doing well. So every 2-3 years, they transferred you to another location. So we got transferred out of New York. We lived there for 6 years. We got transferred out of New York in 1982 to North Carolina, to Conover, North Carolina, and we were there for 2 years. And at that point, a group of the directors from Alcas reached out to my dad and said, "Hey, we're gonna buy the company off Alcoa. Do you want it?" Which he did. So in 1982, they bought the company off Alcoa. We moved back to New York, and we're trying to get this knife factory going. So I was like,
and what were they calling it at that time?
It was Alcas, Alcas.
So when they bought it, they didn't get rid of the Alcoa part.
No.
Okay.
No, because it kept it in the name. Okay. Case had nothing to do with it. Case had exited, 15 years prior to that.
Okay.
And then. So at that point, they became part owners. My dad became part owner in that company. And then as time has gone on, he is the only one of the original owners left. And there's some new owner groups, but the Stitt family, we're the largest shareholder of Cutco Corp.
Oh, and so how did Alcas how did that become Cutco?
It did, because when they bought the company, Alcas used to be known as the knife maker's knife maker. And they made knives they made the Remington Bullet, they made knives for Eck, they made knives for Cold Steel for a short period of time when Lynn was early on in his career. Winoco diving knives. So they made Zippo case, they made knives for everybody. But they also had a product line, Cutco, which was a remnant of the old Wherever company.
Okay.
Because Wherever was doing pots and pans, they would do hope chesting, which, if you're younger, you have no clue what that means. Hope chesting is essentially a dowry that a woman would go into her marriage.
She's got all of her stuff. She needs to be a housefrau.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it right.
And that was door-to-door sales back in those days, right? Yeah.
Correct. And
Cutco was a subsidiary within the holding group, and it became the primary?
Because that's what the majority of the sales of all the company became Cutco, and they got rid of all of the private label stuff they were doing, all the OEM. So there became a point in time when the name Alcas did not fit with what the company was now, which was Cutco. Right.
And so you guys shifted over to the use of what was heretofore a subsidiary name, and it became the primary.
Correct.
And then tell me how the K-Bar Cutco relationship happened.
So in 1996, the then president of K-Bar, a guy by the name of Bob Reinschreiber, who had a relationship with my father, reached out and said, "Look, things aren't good here. I think you guys should buy this." So they were, not far away from going into bankruptcy. Dad still calls it a decision of the heart, not of the head, because on paper, it was a terrible decision.
Man, I've had a bunch of those.
Yeah. You look at it now, and it's like it was a brilliant.
You're like, how
decision.
could you not do it now? But at the time, it was risky.
Yeah, and K-Bar in its origins, 1898 is when we were founded, but we moved Olean in 1902. So K-Bar had a relationship with the town of Olean, New York, for almost 100 years at that point.
Right.
And it was something that my dad, being in manufacturing and with his Midwest roots in Ohio, and at the time in '96, if a company got sold, a lot of times it meant the entire product line went overseas.
Yeah.
And that's why he calls it a decision of the heart, not of the head, because he couldn't stomach it. The owner group couldn't stomach letting K-Bar do that, so they bought the company. And there was 3 or 4 knives maybe that we still have in the line today that were in the line then. Of course, number one being
the
Marie
SMC.
Kondo.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, so I have a hallowed connection with K-Bar as a Marine. I was in the Middle East, and I had a what did I have? I had a SOG made in Washington Bowie, and I had a K-Bar. And my grandfather dies, my Western grandfather, who had been in the cavalry in World War I, and he was just kind of a badass Texan, lived in Arizona, where my dad was born, and instrumental in my life, like fix everything, make, self-determinism. If you need it, make it, fix it, don't buy new. And that's helpful being a knife maker, because you figure out, you got to find a way to make it all work and not waste. And obviously made it through the Depression, so I have all of that kind of formative stuff. The men and women who lived through the Depression, they know about real hard times. You know, like wondering about food, stuff that our generation has not had to worry about. And my battalion commander said, "Hey, I got bad news for you. Your grandfather's passed away, and we could send you home, but we'd rather not, because we're getting ready to go into Kuwait right now, and we'd prefer to have you with us." And I was wearing my K-Bar. I took it off and I handed it to him. I said, "Can you get it in his coffin?" And they put it in his coffin.
It's Ghost. I shared a picture. I told someone today, I said, I just met Greg yesterday, and I told him a story, and I said, I think I might have begun to see a little bit of moisture start to formulate, because the story I was telling was about ghosts and about the decision I made that was not popular, and you get it.
Oh, yeah.
You get the ghosts that are there.
Yep, and I think about it sometimes when I miss him, and I know it's just laying there on his chest, because my dad put it on his chest, and I'm like, oh, it weighs heavy on me sometimes.
You know exactly where it is, though.
Yep. Well, listen, when I told you something, I said, when I got in the knife business, I wanted to run K-Bar. That was my deal. I said, I'm going to do something, and then I'm going to buy K-Bar. Well, you guys are doing really well, and I'm happy for you. And if you do need someone to buy, you make sure you give me a call. Let me know.
You're on the list.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the trends you see maybe in the knife business for a couple minutes. I know you got stuff to do, and I'll cut you loose, but I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. What do you see going on in the knife world right now that's most interesting? What's the most interesting thing you've seen since you've been here?
The one thing that the last 2 years, I think that has been really good for the knife industry is, one, everyone's had their challenges, whether it's supply chain or raw materials, employment. There's all sorts of challenges. But it's also led to a lot of innovation, which if you couldn't get, X, because it's unavailable, you better figure a way out to do something else, or you're not shipping it. If you're holding up, hundreds of thousands of dollars in orders for one part, find a different part.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's been some really good innovation of people just getting craftier again out of necessity.
Yep.
Which always then is followed by then just like kind of like a surge of this ingenuity and this craftiness. And so I look at it as like the next 3, 4, 5 years that there's going to be just a really nice transition into really neat innovations in the industry. you look at the prior 2020, you didn't see a bunch different from like 2016, 2020. Everything kind of looked the same, or everyone was following other trends.
Yep.
I think we're at the precipice of that changing for the next 5 years.
I think isolation does that.
It does.
When you're all seeing each other all the time, all doing all the comparing and pictures and Instagram, everyone starts to crossbreed their thinking and everything. You lock everybody up for a couple of years, and all of a sudden you're in your own box. You're like, hey, you start thinking outside the box because you're in your own space. I have a tendency to never look at anybody's knives. I don't look at what anyone else is doing. People always say, God, your knives, I could tell they're yours from across the room. It's because I'm like, I don't look at anybody else's stuff. Not because there isn't wonderful stuff, but it cross-pollinates your brain, and I want to keep my own DNA in what I do,
Sure.
Any cool products that you'd like to talk about that K-Bar's kind of putting out this year or have on the imminent horizon? Maybe you could break a little news with us. What do you have? You have anything really kind of cool in the Skunk Works that's coming up?
The one of the biggest problems we had was, and I'm this is not a unique K-Bar problem, I'm sure. We were so busy just shipping current models because you might sell 1X of this thing. It didn't just turn into like 2X. It was like 14X.
Yeah.
So product development to a lot
pushed aside.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
like we're so damn busy doing what we got.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had the same thing happen.
We had products that were close to being finished, and those got launched over the last 2 years. And the biggest problem was we weren't backfilling them in the product development cycle because there was no time.
Right.
So
focused on production.
You got it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of the products in our K-Bar Lifestyle brand, like that's the plastic stuff. We got some things in there that are kind of neat. We just we launched here at Blade or slightly before. Which one was a slingshot? That's what I'm not a slingshot guy, but my guys are, and they all liked it and said we should do this. Well, they were right. They did great. We got I'm not a golfer, but we got golfers who work for us and some friends outside friends who wanted to make this product. We got a line of golf tees and divot tools called K-Par.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that's we got the registered mark for that, so that's going to be cool. I'm sure we'll sell a ton of them. The pizza cutter and the ice cream scoop were things that came out more recently.
And they closed down all your stores, Kmart. That was so weird.
Yeah, all
the K's are gone, man.
Where do you work? Kmart. Yeah. No.
Oh, that's all they got at K-Bar Knives. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then the other thing the one thing we've been able to get back to, the one thing we had to really abandon was our custom shop. Because we needed all the employees doing
making stuff
and warehouse.
Right.
So everyone kind of got shifted out, but now we've been able to get back to it again. So one of the products that we had a couple of them last year. We brought them to Blade Show. We're like, well, we got some of these. Let's just bring them, see what happens. It was a red spacer K-Bar, which the red spacer K-Bar was the first K-Bar that they made during World War II, because they made different variations of the knife during World War II.
Yep.
As things changed or they found weak spots.
Where's the red spacer? What's that? Tell us. Give us the story, quick.
So that's the first one, and that's had a red spacer right below the guard. It had a skinnier guard, and it had a peened-on pommel.
Yep.
So it was just hammered on.
Yep.
Well, the handles, once they got wet and shrunk, then the pommel became loose, the guard became loose, and the whole knife
wiggled.
Was a problem.
Yeah.
So they went to a threaded butt cap. Well, the threaded butt cap then broke. And then they went to a pinned butt cap, which is the version that we make in production now. So the red spacer K-Bar, which is the original spec K-Bar, we make by hand in our custom shop. So
why is it called a red spacer?
Has one red spacer in it.
And that's one that flexes for the shrinkage?
Nope. It was early on in the war, they were making it pretty. By the end of the war, they didn't care. It was just how many knives could
Oh, you're kidding.
Mm-mm.
Do you have one over there in the account? Oh, I'm going to go check it out. That's awesome.
We don't have any marine models. All the marine models we sold. So we've done 4 runs of them this year. And every time we did batches of 25, every time we put them up, they were gone in 15 minutes.
Well, you guys have like this built-in rabid customer base that graduates from boot camp every couple of weeks. So it's a built-in connected piece of business genius. How anybody almost ran that into the ground is staggering.
You know what the crazy part is, and we figured this out not long after we started running the company. It's probably 7-8 years. Is the thing that we found is when all the catalogs and the advertising, everything from about 1950 to 2005
Yeah.
had the tagline K-Bar was there. I'm a sales and marketing
That's
guy.
a genius line, man.
But here was the problem with it. The word was. What does that mean?
Right, past tense.
That you're not.
K-Bar is there. Did you change it to is?
We just dropped it. You're making yourself irrelevant to the next generation of consumers because if you got a consumer demographic that's 18 to 35, every year you lose one age and you gain another one.
Right.
They weren't doing anything to acquire new consumer bases. And that's where we kind of caught on, and
I get it.
We've done nice.
Hey, let me ask you something. Has a Marine ever run the company?
I don't think so.
How old are you?
I'm 45.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you're younger than me by a good piece. So when you're ready to punch out of there and go jaunt around Europe in nice suits, and you want a Knuckle Dragon Heathen, you guys look me up, okay?
Will do.
Yeah, you guys should have a Marine at some point.
Do that.
You can bring me on as a mascot.
Yeah.
Hey, absolute pleasure. All tongue-in-cheek aside, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your time to come talk. One of the companies that was kind of formative in my youth, and there are very few people who understand the lineage, the line, the ghosts behind, and the sentiment behind these products. There are very few people other than sentimental Marines and combat vets, and guys who carried them, often spooky places away from home. And appreciate you kind of keeping the standard.
It's my honor and my duty, and it's something that I take extremely seriously. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell. Hey, thanks. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. All right. Hey, what a pleasure I get to not just the politicians and the congressmen and the senators and the governors, not just that, but heads of really cool companies and American brands, interesting characters. And that's our wrap with K-Bar here at Blade Show 2022 from the Greg Medford Show. I'm out.